I've welcome to my review of Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood from 1988, directed by John Buechler, and of course, the 7th film in the franchise. So yes, we are back once again to discuss Friday the 13th. Obviously, it's been a little bit since, the 6th entry, that I reviewed on the channel. So I'd have a break, and here we are, back with this one, and the rest of the franchise to review, and eventually rank the films as well, from least favourite to favourites. So there'll be a spoiler warning for this discussion. If you haven't seen this film, I simply recommend seeing it first, and then come back to this video, and we can go from there. We can talk about this in the comments, and all things Friday the 13th. So yes, with all that said, let's discuss my thoughts on this film, and this is a very interesting film. It's quite a wacky and bizarre film, in the franchise. As I've said previously, after 6, they really went into strange, territory, and they took the franchise in very, random directions. This and then 8, you couldn't be any more different really at times. And then we've got 9 and 10. Jason X is just, really out there. And this is the one that obviously has Tina kind of having these psychokinetic powers, and she takes on Jason in a sense, and at times kind of there's these kind of battles they have, if you will, throughout the film, and it's a really bizarre film, and it's you could say it's kind of rehashing, or kind of taking from some of the previous films as well in the franchise, just some of the characters and the way they're set up and stuff like this, and similar kind of structure, and it's very a fascinating film. It's not very popular. It's quite a divisive film, and originally this was going to be, the kind of time when they were going to do the Freddy vs. Jason type film, and obviously it would be 15 years that they would finally do that film. Instead, they decided to do this kind of Jason versus Carrie type, plot, where obviously Tina has these kind of powers, and she takes on Jason at times. So it's kind of it's very fascinating. Once again, we have this kind of montage, of previous films in the franchise, and this is the final film actually to do that in the series, and this would be fun one for that. We have Walt Gorney actually narrating this montage, and he obviously was Crazy Ralph, in previous films, the franchise, and this is his final film role as well, actually, which is it's sad, but he was this is the kind of narration he'd done, and it's quite cool actually, because we could interpret this in various ways, and I think just hearing him, and just this epic montage, one final one for the franchise, also has the kind of part of the theatrical trailer for Jason Lives, and seeing the gravestone and all this, and a really epic shot there, and I think it's really fitting they used the trailer footage as well as kind of just previous films, what we've been seeing. So it's really an epic mashup, and it gets kind of pumping, and then we have the first act. Obviously Tina, played by Lara Park Lincoln, in this film, and she's kind of this. Well, we're essentially this woman who's had this kind of incident in the past. Her father died, and she kind of blames herself for his death, and it shows her as a kid, kind of using these powers, and psychokinetic powers, and the rest of the film is kind of her attempting to kind of control her feelings. We have this kind of psychiatrist as well in the film, and her mum that come along to of course the lake to try and get over her past, and the kind of traumatic events of the past, and trying to make her better, of course, in this secluded area, and also just kind of dealing with different things. So it's quite an interesting setup, and I think the way this is set up, with the kind of the doctor here, and all this kind of stuff, at first was quite interesting and quite nice to see, but then I think it goes off, and it never really comes back in a kind of meaningful way, and I think it's kind of just. It's set up well, but it's kind of, it just goes off, and it wasn't enjoyable consistently throughout the film, that kind of aspect of this, really, and I didn't really know what to feel in the final act, where the doctor kind of, it was revealed that he's kind of trying, he's not really, the best interest here, and, it's something you could kind of piece this together before, but I just think it was the way it was done, the way it was kind of revealed and stuff, that was a bit cheap for me, and I wasn't really a fan of that, and the kind of turn of this doctor, and what happened with the mum, it just was a bit muddled for me personally, but the setup itself, just the general characters, I think in this group of kind of teenagers and stuff, the lake, was quite well done. I enjoyed some of the characters in this film, and some of the characters not so much. I think in this film we've got too many characters actually, and it's a point where the party, night, kind of there's maybe 8 to 10 different characters here, in this house, and then in the morning, it seems like loads of other characters have shown up off screen, and there's a whole new batch of people just kind of hanging about, and it's a bit hard to kind of get to know some of these characters because of that, and it's just a bit messy, the overall feeling of this, and I think just some of the characters in this film, just kind of rehashing some in 4, Friday the 13th Part 4, and I think just a couple of the other films in the franchise is kind of they are kind of copy and pasting, it seems like, some of these characters, and that was a bit strange, and some of the way that these characters are interacting and the actual arcs of them is a bit very, very similar for me, so that was a bit strange, but I did enjoy kind of the general feeling of this. It's quite funny, quite charming. Some of my favourite characters in this film include Nick and Eddie, and we've got Kevin Blair playing Nick. He's this kind of the main character who kind of has this romance, of course, with Tina, and as well, Eddie's this sci-fi writer, of course, he's played by Jeff Bennett, and he's just a really funny character, and one that I did get invested in, Eddie, and he's kind of someone who the rest of the group, for some reason, called him weird in the film, and just I really enjoyed his character though, just the backstory to him, and his character development, and he was just a bit more likable than the rest of the group, and I think Ben as well, was a good character in this film, and just some of the characters are definitely enjoyable and charming enough, and other characters not so much. They're a bit far away, and some of their scenes are a bit kind of pointless, and I think just Melissa in this film as well, she's kind of she's enjoyable, even though she's quite irritating to the the character of Nick, and I think just how she gets in the way. I guess it was entertaining, in a sense, but she was quite unlikable, obviously, throughout most of the film. But yeah, just some of the kills in this film, I think in the way the cast picked off, quite cool. But once again, we have got the lack of gore in this film, and it's definitely quite an issue throughout the film. Moments where there's build up to the kills, and then it's just a very basic kind of cutaway, or you see one little part blood, and I think it is obviously due to the fact that this film several times has attempted to kind of be finished and shown, of course, to the censors, and they wanted it cut quite a few times to kind of avoid the X rating. So this is really annoying because a lot of the film there was many scenes, it seems, that was actually quite gory and visceral and really extreme in nature, but they were actually cut, and we were not going to probably see the actual the original stuff. But yeah, this the film final product just really lacks the gore, and just in a sense certain scenes that really should have been shown the actual kills just weren't, and I think there was loads of build up at times. Just the moment when, of course, the Doctor is getting stalked by Jason, and he's getting chased, he falls over, and Jason's got the weapon there, and it's been around a minute and a half or so of him chasing him, and the actual build up to the kill, and by that point I just thought obviously this is not going to be too gruesome, so I wasn't really too hyped for this, and of course that was the case. It just kind of showed a very brief bit of his stomach, and it's just very minimal blood there. So that's a shame. It really does hurt the film once again. I think after Friday Part 4, I think 5 and 6 were definitely cutting it back with the kind of kills and the blood and stuff. But then 7 onwards is once again another kind of jump where it's very rarely kind of seeing the true gruesome nature of this, and like the first 4 films, there's really a great blend. It wasn't too over the top with the violence, but it was satisfying enough, and you did see the blood, the gore, and just it was satisfying to see how these kills were built up, and it did follow through. So it's a shame that this film once again it has that issue, and it does take away from it. But we have Kane Hodder, of course, playing Jason in this film, and he kind of obviously played 7, 8, 9, and 10. He played Jason in, and he was definitely one of the best Jasons in this film. We have, of course, Tina resurrecting Jason, accidentally, of course, through her powers, and she's thinking about her dad and all this kind of stuff, and it goes wrong, and she does kind of resurrect Jason instead. Who's been in the lake that whole time, obviously from previous kind of events, and it's very strange because the way this happens, of course, and then Jason comes out, and he's all kind of decomposed and all this. He's kind of more of a skeleton figure, kind of a zombie-like character, and it is quite fascinating. I think in the final act, one of my flaws of this film, even though it's epic and you have Jason, some really cool moments. I think in Kane Hodder is great in this film. The whole kind of idea of showing Jason, he's with the mask off. This is the kind of most screen time, I believe, in all of the films where he was unmasked, and I think that was kind of it was fine by me. It's something I would have preferred to be more masked in this film, but just the expressions that Jason is having in this film, it's quite, it looks quite gross in this. It's quite scary, genuinely, but and I think Kane Hodder really pulls this off. But the idea to kind of having, kind of more, for example, more advanced facial, kind of gestures and all this kind of stuff was a bit strange, and the way he's reacting at times, it's more, kind of, it's very different to, for example, the Jason we've been seeing. Here's this childlike presence. He's not someone who is like other characters, other adults. And he is kind of more, because obviously he died when he was 5, and all this kind of stuff. And the whole point of Jason is, he has this kind of he can't talk and all this kind of stuff, and he's more childlike in that sense. And the whole kind of expressions, the gestures from him was a bit too kind of advanced and a bit too kind of clever, I guess, in that sense. And for this actual character, fair enough if they were kind of going for a different direction, but it wasn't really kind of, it wasn't really set up in that way. And, we have the usual Jason, and then in the final act when he's unmasked, it seems like basically a different character, and what we've been seeing, the franchise, and that was a bit strange, and I wasn't really a fan of that, personally, just personal preference there. But it's definitely cool, and it's got the amazing moment where we have Tina kind of set him on fire and all this kind of stuff. There's some great kind of stunt work there. Really quite visceral, and it's kind of uninterrupted. When Jason is kind of doused, of course, in gasoline, and then he's lit up, and that was a real kind of bold moment there. Kane Hodder was actually doing this himself, and he was lit up. And he was kind of on fire for quite a long amount of time here, and it's a real quite dangerous moment. But yeah, it's a really bold moment. It does make for a more immersive sequence. It's just very kind of realistic the way it's done, and it's just a really epic moment. And I think just the way in which at the end we have kind of the father of Tina being brought back, and he's the one that kind of his soul, even though he's kind of he's not decomposed or any of this kind of stuff, and he is just kind of normal looking there. He brings Jason down with the chains and all this kind of stuff, and he kind of brings him back into the lake, and that is the end of the film. And it's quite a strange moment. I get what they were going for there, but it's a bit wacky there. But I did definitely enjoy some of the characters. Obviously Nick, as I've said, he's a really good character. I think it was enjoyable, and interactions between him and of course Tina was good. He has a presence. He's quite likable, and he does help her and understand her in the film. And Eddie as well. He's kind of this obviously sci-fi writer, and he is just an enjoyable character in this film. I did enjoy him, and just some charming characters for sure. And I think Tina as a protagonist, I guess actually for me it's one of the better ones, in the franchise. Personally, I did enjoy this performance, of course, by Larpart Lincoln, and I think just the kind of chemistry she had with some of the characters was well done, and at times definitely some on the I guess on the nose and one note kind of ways in which other characters are shunning her and all this kind of stuff, and it wasn't done in the best ways first, but it did kind of develop a bit, and at least she had Nick that was kind of there for her, and kind of thing. And it was done in an enjoyable way, and well written at times, and I think visually it's got some really good moments. I love the locations at times. Once again, the shot as well, of Jason at night, kind of in the corner of the room, and just the characters there just getting stalked, and comes up behind him, of course, with the fridge. That was a really good moment visually, and some creative moments. It's a shame that we don't really get to see the follow through of a lot of the kills, and that would have been a lot better if we had. But that's just one of the things of a lot of this franchise going forward. That is the case. We're not really seeing too much of these kills, and it's kind of cut away, or not really, it's just left out entirely. So that's a shame. But I think just there's definitely still creative moments visually, and it is well shot, it's well edited. As for the score of the film, it's well done, but it's mostly kind of recycled music from the previous films, the franchise, of course. Harry from Manfredini, his pieces, and Fred Mullen, kind of is combined here, and he done the original pieces, cues to this film, but it's mostly kind of taken from, the previous films, in the franchise. So it's quite interesting there. It's definitely not one of my favourite scores, in the franchise, but it's it's fine enough, and we've got the iconic cues, of course, for Jason and all this kind of stuff. So it's quite cool the way it's done, and I think the opening credits was a bit strange, the way that was done, but aside from that, it's definitely decent score again, and I think just it's a film that it's definitely quite cinematic at times, and it's let down by different aspects of the film, and this is interesting because I do really like the the protagonist in this film, and it was obviously going to be the start of a new trilogy again, but that was kind of put on hold and then eventually abandoned. That idea, of course, of Tina kind of coming back for a couple more films, and it was obviously completely done away with. And then we had part 8 and 9 being completely separate again from each other, and that's interesting because we did have the previous films being following one character in particular, of course, and in this film it was going to be another case of that, and this new character, the new blood, of course, and then it's just ended up being this film with Tina, and I probably would have preferred actually if they had stuck to this character, because I did like this character, and it would have probably been better than 8 and 9 for me. We'll get to those films. I have some positive things to say about 8, but I think it's just I definitely would have probably preferred if they'd stuck to this character, and at least I would have been more invested in this kind of going forward. But yeah, I did enjoy Tina, and as I say, Nick and Eddie and the Doctor as well at times. Kind of had some interesting interactions and moments in this film. But there's definitely some arcs in this film that don't really go anywhere, and they're a bit frustrating as we go into the second half of the film, and not really done as well as it could have been. A bit cheap, with the turn of the Doctor and all this kind of stuff, and all the outcome of the mum and all this. It wasn't quite up to my liking personally. But overall, it's it's a fine film. It's an average one. I'm not huge on this one, but it's definitely better than I think some of the films in the franchise. It's got its moments. I consistently enjoyed the film, and I think the protagonist and a couple of the other characters were good in the film, and it's got some funny moments, just enjoyable as a slasher film, and it's quite a charming one again. Once again off the 80s, and they have this particular charm to them, and it's really it's just a warm film once again, and quite just a relaxing film to watch, and you've got quite an epic final act at times. Obviously, I do have my problems with Jason and the way he's kind of revealed too much, in the end. But aside from that, Kane Hodder is very good in this film, and it's just really good as Jason. Definitely one of the best in the franchise. So yeah, overall, I do enjoy this film, and my rating for this one is a 60%. So dead on 60. It's not a film that I'm huge on, but it's an okay film. It's fine enough, and I think it's got its moments, and overall I do enjoy this one personally. So yeah, that's my thoughts. What do you think? It'd be really great to hear your thoughts in the comments. What's your personal experience with this film, and how does it compare for you to different films in the franchise? Of course, that'd be great to hear. Next up will be Jason Takes Manhattan, a very bizarre, once again, film in the franchise, the 8th entry. I'll be watching that in the next week and reviewing that, and that's the one. I'll say it now, I don't hate the film. It's not kind of a bad film for me or anything like that, but it's definitely a very bizarre film in the franchise. I look forward to rewatching that one, and see it again. I've only seen it once, of course, a few years ago, and it's the one that I have a few things to say about. So that'll be up next, heads up there, and as I say, within the next week from the upload of this one, that will probably be up. So yeah, look forward to that and discussing that film, and we'll do the rest of them, and we'll be kind of rewatching again Freddy vs. Jason. I'm not sure if I'll be reviewing that one again, but just watching it again, and in the ranking that will be included as well, of course, and the ranking will come probably in December time. That'll be when it's uploaded finally, and it'll be really cool to do this, and look forward to that. And hearing your thoughts today on this film and all things Friday the 13th. So yes, as always, take care, and thanks for watching.